Hello, everyone. Welcome back for some more The Great Ace Attorney. We are moving on to the second Great Ace Attorney game. We played through the first, and not only do we have the playthrough of the first up, my good editor friend Nino made some edited shortened versions to catch up. So if you want to get a good refresher, you can rewatch it that way. Either way's fine. I'll accept both. We're here! Oh, I'm excited. I've been watching a lot of not Great Ace Attorney, but just regular Ace Attorney playthroughs. Wooly, he's started one, and I've been loving watching him do it. I watched Shenpai this year. There's a number of different creators getting into Ace Attorney, and so it's just continually in my sphere, and I really wanted to get back to this, but there's just been so many other games. So now there are costumes, but I've been told, do not put them on for the first case. Which, thank you. So I'm actually going to make sure they're off, right? We're going to turn these off, right? Yeah, turn them off just for now. We will switch them up later. But for now, we are going to continue. I'm sure it'll start with a proper, reintroduction. But here we are, The Great Ace Attorney 2, Resolve. So this is the Japanese court, and this is the British one. Was it actually 2 years later? Kind of crazy. I thought it was right away, because this was during the era of Capcom where people would get mad that this game wasn't one full game. They're like, ugh, Crapcom era, right? But I thought it was within the year. It's super not. Well, let's go. Been a while, but we're back. I've not had anything spoiled, which is really, really good. Sound of cicadas. I love that sound. I thought that was anime. That was 3D.
Standing here in the bright sunshine, looking out over the vast ocean. Those days in London seem like a dream. But I do miss my time in England's vast capital.
Oh, is the dad dead? Wait.
You know, he's flourished into a truly wonderful lawyer.
Wait, is this a time skip? What are we doing?
I've no doubt that at this very moment, he's fighting some noble cause in court.
Be really funny if he's not. Oh.
Forgive me for taking so long to come to visit you. My life has been such a whirlwind since I returned. And no one could have predicted what has happened. Just 2 months after arriving home.
I find myself faced with an awful crime, yeah. Okay, why was that one not voiced? Oh my god, you're back. Jezebel.
So
I knew she'd come back.
Tomorrow, I shall be standing in court. For the only time in my life. As a lawyer.
Whoa. What? Oh.
So please,
Oh.
I ask for your guidance.
She's the one who's dead.
Kazuma-sama.
Oh no, that's Kazuma's grave. Okay. I thought her father died. Whoa, okay. The Adventure of the Blossoming Attorney. Oh, I'm sorry, is she gonna wear the outfit? If so, that sounds hella cute. I want to see this. Wait, we're Sasato? That's crazy. 13th of August, 8:26 a.m. Supreme Court of Judicature, Defendant's Antechamber 3. Here I am again after 9 months. The Supreme Court of Judicature of Japan. I feel so nervous, but I must steel my nerves and find a way to compose myself. Oh, wow. It always starts with this, huh? Oh, good, you're here. It doesn't do good for a lawyer to be late. Oh, yes, Good morning, sir. I hardly recognize you. You got a fine figure, Counsel. But you look as white as a sheet. And those white eyes aren't doing you any favors either. Oh, dear. Truth is, I'm so incredibly nervous. I feel utterly nauseated. I almost wish that I'd never been born. Wow, okay, has therapy been invented yet? You might want to seek it. Oh, goodness. Not the sort of thing Father hopes to hear from his daughter, I must say. Yujin Mikotoba, professor of medicine at the Imperial Yume University. A man who, earlier in his life, traveled to Great Britain to study the latest advances in forensic medical science. And of course, my brilliant father. Excuse me, yeah, I don't know who this is going to be. First impressions. Oh! You look... normal? What am I supposed to get from you? You're just kind of generic. Would I be correct in... Oh, I almost gave her an accent. Would I be correct in thinking that you're to be my lawyer in court today? Oh, yes. Yes, that's right, miss. Well, I want to thank you for agreeing to represent me. I swear on my life. It's a complete fabrication. This whole thing. Ray Membami. Remember me? Is that what it's meant to be? Ray Membami. Remember me. Remember me! Oh, that's really funny. That's cute. Born the same year as I, and my greatest friend. Oh, we're literally just doing a redo of Case 1. But gender swapped. Well, unusual for a woman in our time, she works at the University Research Laboratory, helping my father. Somehow, I have future sight, and I can tell that things will get better. Then worse. But then hopefully better. And sadly, she's the defendant in today's trial, accused of committing a truly awful murder. Are you feeling all right? Since we started talking, you seem, well, to become a little flushed. Oh, my, it's just, oh. Oh, I know what you are. Oh. You have a cold. You look so gallant and dashing. Nah, she's just fitting into the Ace Attorney universe. Sorry? And when I fall under your intense gaze, it makes me feel rather bashful. Goodness, I don't think she knows. What? Are you saying she doesn't know that she is... Is that what you're saying? She hasn't realized who I am. Oh! Oh, you didn't say, "Hi, I'm Sasato, your friend"? It would seem our little plan for this trial is going to work. Oh, what do you mean, Professor Mikotoba? If even your best friend can't see through the disguise, I think we can relax. Disguise? Yes, I've never tried dressing this way before, of course, so I wasn't sure how convincing it would be. But this does make me feel a little relieved, as you say, Father. Father? Her world's coming crashing down. Uh, is that you, Sasato? I'm so sorry I didn't say something sooner, Ray. It's just that... No! What are you doing? What's going on? What? That varsity uniform, that varsity cap, that varsity cape, that varsity badge. Look at you. You look, for all the world, like a student of the Imperial Yume University. A male student. I'm so glad you think so. It means all my preparations have been worthwhile. I woke up at 4 this morning to make a start. But I don't understand. Why are you dressed like that? Well, you see... It was the only way. Is this gonna be like, according to our justice system, women can't be attorneys, so... The only way she'd be permitted into the Supreme Court to take on your defense in this trial. Yep, there you go. My defense? Never before in my life have I felt so frustrated at having been born into this body. Courts in Japan are barred to women. Oh, it's not even to be, like, playing an active role. You're just done. Oh, we're not even allowed to set foot inside the courtroom. Despite the fact that laws of the land apply to all people, male and female alike. Oh, isn't this a tale as old as time? You know, yes, equality exists, but does it? That's how it always goes, right? But women are forbidden. Just for today, I believe in my true self at the courtroom door. So, like, I want to believe that this is a straight one-to-one reference to the fact that half of the Ace Attorney plays are done by all-woman troops. Troops with Troupes, right? The same pun that makes Sakura Wars work out. So, when you watch those, you really do see just how a Japanese woman can cut a figure in a man's uniform to look like a man. The androgyny of Japanese culture is insane to me. Because, like, there's times where I'll be like, when I go to Japan, there's times where I'm literally like, are you, like, I'll be by someone and I'll be like, I don't know. You're attractive, but I don't know who you are, you know? It's pretty crazy. I feel like it's got to be a reference to this, because by this point, those came out really early on in the life cycle of Ace Attorney. Did I read that? Just for today, I'll be leaving my true self at the courtroom door, so that I can act as your lawyer. Oh, Sasato, you'd go to such lengths for me? Of course, you're my greatest friend. I just worry that I shan't be the lawyer you deserve. Can I just say also, something I didn't mention when it was happening, the scene where she was speaking in full and at long length, funny enough, like, giving that a listen, I don't know Sasato's voice actress, I looked it up at some point, but, like, that is an Asian woman with a British accent, which I know because I teach students who are English language learners, right? They're not English native tongue, they are from China, right? And there's a couple who you can tell have studied with British materials. So, like, literally, you'll talk to them and they'll be like, "Good day, professor," right? And it's but there's still their own native sort of, you know, affect to their tongue. It's cool because that sounds like what a number of students that I have here. So that's a remarkable level of detail if that's the case, where I would have never expected that from a game. Oh, no, I have complete faith in you, Ray. It's so strange, though. I mean, you're such an accomplished judicial assistant already, and yet, just because you're a woman, what a wretched reason. I mean, why shouldn't you be allowed in court? You're so gallant and dashing. Ray, please don't look at me like that with those flushed cheeks and doting eyes. Oh, I'm sorry, it's just, you really do look so dashing. Yes, you mentioned that once or twice. You should be pleased. It means you look convincing as a man. I'm pleased, I think. It certainly helped to bolster my confidence there. Would that be a thing to be pleased about? For your father to slap you across the back and say, "Look at you! Now you look like a real man." It's like, I'm your daughter. Ray, you're managing to put on a brave face in all this, but I can see through it. I've noticed how your shoulders are slumped and how you're trembling ever so slightly. Sato, you do believe me, don't you? I didn't do it. I couldn't have. I mean, Murder? Of course. You have nothing to worry about. Your conscience is perfectly clean. Isn't that right? Yes. Yes, it is. Perfectly clean. She kind of has some Maya-isms in her animations. I wonder if she's meant to... Like she's obviously not Karain, right? That's a whole other thing. Now that we know that all the people from like Maya's stuff, that they're closer to like India than they are to being from Japan. It absolutely a retcon to make it work for North America, right? But but I think she's meant to be giving Maya. I have absolutely no doubt in my mind about your innocence, which is why I'll stand by you until the bitter end in this trial. Whatever happens, I'll always be on your side, because that's what it means to be a defense lawyer. That means so much to me, Susato. I was gonna give them the accents, but no, we're in Japan, and I don't want to do that. That would be very inappropriate for me to do. Defendant, counsel, court is about to begin. Proceed to the courtroom at once. You should go in at once, Ray. If you're late, the judge won't hesitate to pronounce you guilty. Oh. Stand aside! I don't think I've ever seen her run so fast. Well, Sasato, certainly surprised your father. Going to such lengths to be admitted into the courtroom and with no prior experience of being a lawyer. There was simply no other way. That's all there is to it. But, Father, you haven't told her, have you? I mean, I'm right in assuming that Ray doesn't know how it came to this? Yes, quite right. I've kept that information from her. It would only worry her if she found out that no other lawyer would agree to take her case. I didn't want to burden her with that. And is it true? The reason why every other lawyer is refusing to take this case? Is it really because of who the victim was? We should be making a move now, too. As you know, law is in my field, but I'll do what I can to support my student. Thank you, Father. Man. I'm Sasato Mikotoba, a judicial assistant. 8 months ago, I accompanied a student of law on a study trip to Great Britain. Okay, so it has been almost a year. But 2 months ago, due to unforeseen circumstances, I found myself back in Japan. Oh, wait, no, okay, wait. All right, because it takes a long time on the boat. How many times have I wished that you were here, I wonder? Still, I have no choice now but to steel myself for the trial ahead. Wish me luck, Naruhodo-san. Oh man, we're going in. Okay. No investigation, right into the trial, as usual. 13th of August, 9 a.m. Supreme Court of Judicature, Courtroom 1. Oh, whoa, you look cool! Whoa! The court is now in session to hear the trial of Ray Membami.
The prosecution is fully ready to proceed, Your Excellency.
You look so cool. You are extremely Raido Kuzunoha. Defense counsel, are you ready? Yes, Your Excellency, we are ready. Ready. Oh, you're just like him. Oh, yes, counsel. According to your registration details, your name is, Ryotaro Naruhodo. Is that correct? Ryutaro. Sorry? Oh yes, I had to come up with a suitable male name for you for this little venture. I'm afraid I simply put down the first name that sprung to mind. Well, counsel? Yes, that's right. That's me. Yes, I am Ryutaro, who has vowed to uphold the pride of the great Naruhodo clan. Oh, It seems Ryotaro may need to consider how better to uphold his manly act first and not overdo it. And those wild, wide eyes aren't doing you any favors either. Just relax and listen. Naruhodo. It's funny because she just said, "Ah, I see."
A fresh face in this courtroom, if I'm not mistaken. But the name Naruhodo, would that perchance be?
You may be thinking of Ryunosuke Naruhodo, currently in Britain as part of a study program. This is,
His cousin?
That's right. Ryotaro here has been studying in the provinces, but was called to the capital for this trial. I assure you, in matters of law, his knowledge rivals that of any of Tokyo's preeminent lawyers.
Any of them? Toot, toot, toot. What a pitiful situation. Having been rejected by every lawyer in the capital, the accused has had to call in a country boy.
How dare you? Susato is every bit as gallant and dashing as any of your Tokyo attorneys. I won't have you making fun of her.
Her? Pronouns? Those are illegal, you know.
Oh, please be careful, Ray.
Choo-hoo-hoo. What an unrefined tomboy we have here.
So, there is the thing where, like, in Japanese, like, you have gendered pronouns, but they are done mostly for how you speak yourself, right? So, like boku is for boys, right? And then, like, ore is when you're older. There's a lot more, like, honorifics and stuff, right? Blah, blah, blah. But you could be such a tomboy that you as a female... Why did I say it like that? You as a woman can use, like, boku or ore, and it's like, you can say it, and it just says more about you, right? It's like Japanese has more customization options for how you think of yourself, and I think that's kind of cool. Because, there, you might one day just wake up and go, I think I'm no longer boku. I'm now ore. And I think that's a neat way of going about it, right? Yeah.
But I wonder, is your gallant and dashing lawyer up to the challenge of defending you? His wide, skittish eyes very much suggest that he is not.
I'm so nervous. I'm standing in his shoes. I'm starting to understand what Naruhodo-san goes through. Like it or not, eyes won't want to flit. Oh, yeah, that's that. You certainly still speak the way you do, huh? The case to be heard on this day is a matter of great significance to our national interests. In fact, it would be reasonable to assume that the outcome of this trial may well affect the very future of our empire.
Just like the trial 9 months ago. And yet, for proceedings of such importance, we have this unknown yokel by the dock. Dear me.
Perhaps this would be an appropriate moment for me to assess the defense, to determine whether you are sufficiently competent to practice in this courtroom. 9 months ago, when a certain other Naruhodo stood where you're standing now, the same judge tested him as well. And even though he was just a student at the time, not even of law, he passed the test with flying colors. Almost like anyone can be a lawyer at this moment, which is kind of sad, but okay. For a trained and experienced judicial assistant like you, this will be easy. So, counsel, do you consent to answering some simple questions? Oh, jacket off? The jacket was cool! Should've kept it on, but okay. Alright. It's time to prove myself. Boy, aren't you glad you're kind of flat? Yes, Your Excellency, but please do make them simple. Very well, to start with, you will state the name of the victim. I don't see a court record. Oh, that's simple. I couldn't forget that if I tried. What's the matter? Now that I'm standing in his shoes, I'm starting to understand something else Naruhodo-san goes through. Like it or not, minds are wont to blank. It's not surprising, really. It's your first time in this position and in that, guise. Even a bright spark like you is bound to flicker and falter a little under the circumstances. Oh dear. This is a dismal failure.
Don't fret. Need only use the knowledge you've gained as a judicial assistant to overcome the problem.
Of course, the court record. Yes, the answer will be amongst all the key information about the case in the court record.
That's right. Just use the R button to open the court record.
I've tried. It's not there.
I need to flip to the People section with
The R button.
And don't take too long over it. His Excellency is watching closely.
I'm pressing it. It's not working. All right. Check the court record with R. That's where the information... There we go. So, post-mortem report. Time of death is just after 2 p.m. Death is due to trauma. The victim's lung from a knife blade. Single wound. 11th, 2 p.m. It is Giselle Brett. Or, as I said, Jezebel, right? Single stab wound, piercing lunge, fatal hemorrhage. Death would have occurred within minutes. Minor meiosis, pupil constriction. Poisoned, perhaps? So, 43. Ray Mimbami, 16. Giselle Brett, 25. Okay. Victim of the case was a former British exchange student 9 months ago, found guilty of the murder of the visiting professor, Dr. John Watson. So did she just get out after 9 months? And Takatsuchi Ouchi, the lead prosecutor, appears to be struggling to accept new changes as a result of the turbulent new times of the Meiji era.
I'm waiting, counsel. What is the name of the victim in this case?
That is Giselle Brett.
Yes!
Yes. It's all right. The name of the victim who lost her life in this case is Miss Giselle Brett. Giselle Brett.
A name that will never be forgotten in the courtrooms of our country, I'm sure. Correct. And being a member of our empire's judiciary, you will be well aware of the significance of that name. So, let me pose another simple question. As you know, Miss Brett was a visiting student from the Empire of Great Britain. Not that great. Why then is her name indelibly associated with our own empire's judicial history? Obviously, you won't.
These two have such a similar voice. Didn't think they'd be side by side. Oh well.
Obviously, you won't have forgotten that case from 9 months ago. It's proving hard to recall the finer points. Everything you need is included in the court record.
Obviously, I still remember. That was the start of everything. Giselle Brett. Behind the woman's student persona was the face of... Okay, that's the autosave slot. Yeah, yeah. Wait... Queen Victoria! Queen Victoria. Obviously.
Obviously not.
The Queen of England? Studying overseas? Next you'll tell me she's a pirate on the ocean shooting cannons and stuff. I thought it sounded a little odd.
Leave me out of this. I'm not sure. I'm sure you know all the details of the case in question from 9 months ago.
Oh yes, how could I forget? I know every last detail about it.
And what on earth was that absurd answer you just gave? No more absurdity, please, counsel. You will amend your answer.
Yes, of course, Your Excellency. They both have to call my answer absurd. It was a killer.
Yes!
9 months ago, a visiting professor of medicine at the Imperial Yume University was killed, and the culprit was Giselle Brett.
Yes, she was a killer.
I think this is him.
At the time, our country had just signed a new treaty with the Empire of Great Britain. It was in the midst of this delicate diplomatic situation that the incident occurred. An Englishman, Dr. John H. Wilson, not to be confused with Watson. Those are two different people. You cannot put them together in your mind. Was shot dead. I believe he was an associate of yours, Professor Mikotoba. Yes, I was indebted to the man.
Oh, no, that was... Well, they have the same voice. It's all good.
Yes, I was indebted to the man. He'd been my mentor when I went to London to study forensic medicine. Indeed, it was I who invited him here to Japan as a visiting professor at the university. Naturally, the murder of an Englishman on our soil was a matter the government wished to resolve rapidly. Indeed it was, which is why a secret trial was conducted here at the Supreme Court. A student of the Imperial Yume University was arrested on suspicion of murder. A second-year English language student by the name of Ryunosuke Naruhodo. With the help of his best friend, a student lawyer, the accused conducted his own defense.
Hope not too much of the game is recap. I hope it at a point just goes like, yeah, you don't need to like it's the beginning of the game and they're making sure you know, but I really hope at a certain point they're not just always going to keep recapping.
And expose the despicable crime committed by Miss Giselle Brett. Miss Brett eventually admitted to her crime. However, when questioned about the motive that drove her to take Dr. Wilson's life, she gave no satisfactory answer before the trial reached its conclusion.
Immediately after the trial, the British government brought its consular adjudication in Oh, that's a bit different word. Immediately after the trial, the British government brought its consular jurisdiction into play. We were unable to sentence Miss Brett according to our empire's laws. It was decided that she be removed to Shanghai, China, instead.
Why Shanghai?
There's a British consular court there. Correct. I oversaw the negotiations personally. The date of her transfer to Shanghai was finally settled upon only last week.
All that took a long time. That took a long time then.
All that remained of our empire's obligations was to see the woman safely on board a steamship.
And yet, the very day before her departure, the Englishwoman was killed.
Only the day before? That's such a manly pose, dude.
That will do. I'm satisfied that the counsel for the defense is sufficiently capable of representing the defendant.
Oh. Thank you, Your Excellency. Over the first hurdle.
Now, a summary of the incident, if you please. Prosecutor Ouchie.
Oh, as is your wish, Your Excellency. The repugnant crime took place on the 11th August in broad daylight.
What a beautiful little area. Oh my god.
On the outskirts of the imperial capital, under a bright blue sky, at a secluded bathing spot by the sea. The incident occurred inside a small beach hut, erected for bathers to rest or change their clothes. The cause of death was a single stab wound to the posterior abdomen that pierced the victim's lung, an injury which proved fatal. There were two persons alone in the beach hut at the time of the victim's death, Miss Brett in her bathing attire, and the accused, Membami. Accordingly, there can be no doubt of the accused's guilt, especially when we consider she had a powerful motive. The police arrived rapidly at the scene and promptly arrested the young lady.
What's the motive? We need to learn what that is.
Well, that extraordinary description of events leaves me somewhat lost for words, I must say.
That's certainly true. Prosecution's summary was full of words that raise an awful lot of questions. As a lawyer, I really ought to pick up the prosecution counsel on what he said. I think the biggest thing is what this motive is. You're clearly exaggerating. Powerful motive is a blatant overstatement.
Toot, toot, toot. Is this the yokel boy? Is the yokel boy using long words he doesn't fully understand?
I beg your pardon.
No matter. Let us put this to the accused, shall we? Membami-san, you are a research assistant at the Imperial Yume University, I believe?
Yes, I am. I'm working with Professor Mikotoba in his laboratory at the moment.
I can confirm that. The defendant is an excellent assistant with a strong sense of responsibility.
Fascinating to hear. Now, another question. Prior to your work with Professor Mikotoba, whose research were you assisting then?
Oh, no. Oh, well, I was studying under Dr. John H. Wilson.
Dr. Wilson? The visiting English professor was murdered by Miss Brett 9 months ago.
Oh, that is a motive.
The accused had a deep-seated respect for her former mentor, Dr. Wilson. Is that not true?
Yes, Dr. Wilson was a wonderful man.
Interesting. Then tell the court what deep-seated feelings you had towards the Englishwoman who killed him.
Well, obviously I was filled with hatred for what she'd done, a powerful hatred. Oh no, Ray, be careful what you're saying.
The motive was revenge, plain and simple, Your Excellency.
Well, it's clearly a trap all along.
How wicked of him to use Ray's undying respect for her former mentor against her like that. Must find out more details and something we can use to bolster our defense. As a lawyer, okay, so we do get the other ones. Good. Okay. The bathing spot. Tell me more about it. If I may, Prosecutor Ouchie.
What do you want, you fresh-faced young yokel student?
I wonder, could you explain, please? You mentioned a bathing spot.
My apologies. Clearly my modernity has confused the poor country bumpkin's simple mind. Bathing spots are the very latest trend in health practices from the West. We are told that bathing in the water of the ocean is curative, therapeutic, and excellent for the skin's...
No, that's not what I meant. I was referring to the fact that Miss Brett had, to all intents and purposes, been found guilty of murder. Why would a known criminal have been relaxing by the sea?
Huh. For old time's sake, I believe.
Sorry?
Miss Brett was to depart for Shanghai the following day. Her final wish, as it were, was to enjoy a day at our country's wonderful coast. And the British Embassy put extreme pressure on our government to comply.
But on what grounds would we agree to such a request?
Because, as usual, our government is unable to stand up to foreign powers. In matters of diplomacy, seems we don't even have the courage to decline the whims of a known criminal.
Once again, tale as old as time. Some known criminals can go really far with what influence they have.
Don't look at me, Professor. It was the government who granted permission, not I.
And yet you participate in the government. How interesting.
In any case, it was decided that with a dedicated detective on duty, nothing could go wrong.
Where was said detective? But in fact, a murder took place.
I said don't look at me. It was the young student girl who did it, not I.
No one has proved that yet.
I wouldn't provoke the man if you don't need to.
At this stage, we gather more information. Okay, so yeah. So, last one, being alone together. Hey, what about the friggin' detective that was supposed to be there then? Mbami-san. Yes, what is it? Naruhodo-san. I'm really starting to wish we'd made my alias Ryotaro Susato. Please tell the court why exactly you were present at the bathing spot with the victim in the first place, and why you were alone with her. Oh, well, no, that's not true. It wasn't like that at all. There were other people present, a detective who was guarding Miss Brett for starters. I was just asked to accompany Miss Brett as a companion, Was it a guy?
And so, like, we need to send a woman in? Probably.
But let us be clear. At the moment of her death, you were alone together with the victim in the hut. You and no one else. The truth is, there is only one reason why this young woman accompanied Miss Brett on her bathing sojourn. It was the accused's last chance to take the victim's life.
No.
Because, as we know, the following day would see Miss Brett extradited to the British authorities in Shanghai. And the accused would never have an opportunity to dispatch her again.
Kindly refrain from conjecture, counsel.
Hoo-hoo.
I believe we all have a clear picture of the incident now. Despite her... it's the exact same voice. Despite her guilt being determined 9 months ago, Miss Brett managed to avoid incarceration and instead continued her research work at the university. Obviously, over that period, she and Ray would have encountered each other on a number of occasions. Seeing the murder of the mentor for whom she had such great respect enjoying such undeserved liberty. Yes, even if it was only temporary until Miss Brett's extradition to Shanghai, you can hardly blame Ray for her feelings of anger and resentment. Poor Ray.
So, Your Excellency, if you'd be so kind as to peruse this exhibit. A photographic print that shows the scene of the crime immediately following the grim incident.
Okay. Yeah, okay. I see some tea, I see a bag, I see her, I see a bottle, I see another dress, I see another bag. Is this swimming attire? Is that meant to be swimming attire? Kind of wild. Yes, thank you, counsel. Tragic image.
As you can clearly see, there is nowhere within the hut that anyone could have hidden.
In the dress, under the table, in the bag, on the ceiling, through the thing. I don't know. There's always places. Or we'll accept this photographic print as evidence. Okay. As I understand it then, the victim and the defendant were alone inside the beach hut at the time. This is deeply troubling, I must say. The finger of guilt points firmly at the defendant.
Well, Your Excellency, naturally the prosecution has much more to this case.
Fun.
We intend to prove the accused's appalling actions beyond all possible contention. To that end, I can confirm that we have multiple witnesses to the crime and damning evidence.
Witnesses? But who? They were alone.
One of whom, I might add, is a highly respected police detective. I assure you, the testimony of these witnesses will leave no room for doubt.
Very well then, counsel. Bring forth your witnesses. You can do that, right?
I, Takatsuchi Ouchi, have been waiting for this moment.
Sorry?
Oh, yes. I haven't forgotten that trial 9 months ago here in this very courthouse, when that irreverent little student boy utterly humiliated me.
All right, he had hair.
Ryunosuke Naruto!
What? Yes? I didn't even notice that his hair had changed. He looked more natural with the front thing.
This insult to the Ouchi family name will never be forgotten.
You become conceited with age, counsel. But the old have to stand aside and make way for the new. It's the way of the world. May you never forget that. Right, and then the slash. Yep. Hey, at least you're growing a little horn, man. You got the little horn growing in? It's rough. It's real rough, actually. It's really bad.
Strike the head of a samurai whose top knot has been cut, and the bell of cultural enlightenment tolls. Yes, on that faithful day, my former self died.
The start of your own mini Meiji revolution. Are you modernizing as well, Council?
Silence! Since I swore revenge back then, there have been a minor miracle atop my head. Observe the ouchy growth!
Are we getting lore? We're getting lore to their little curl?
You see this seed of hope sprouting forth from the barren expanse of my crown?
I think that tiny growth is trying to tell me something. I'm afraid I can't really see. Where's the hope exactly?
I said silence! Today, I face another yokel student of the Naruhodo clan. Well, I will vanquish you, and my victory will be fertilizer for the seed of hope atop my head. You have been warned. With that, the prosecution calls the witnesses to the stand.
It looks like the stakes are high on both sides in this trial. The prosecution and defense each has much to lose.
A haircut is hardly comparable to Ray's life.
Not for a man.
Oh my god! Oh my god! Really? Okay. Okay.
Witnesses, please state your name and occupations for the court.
Chief Inspector Satoru Hosonaga, Imperial Police Bureau. I'm in disguise, obviously, so I can go undetected. Okay. And I am, well, the next big thing in books, an author renowned throughout the capital, in fact. Yes. Soon to be sold out, the satirical I'm a Cat, a sensational success by Soseki Natsume. Who's this? Who's this jabroni? You're looking a bit better, though, buddy. Oh my goodness. Struggling student from the provinces, please. You needn't be in awe of me. I needn't. It's only natural that you'd feel nervous in my presence, but all of you, please relax. Call me Soseki even. Yes. What on earth is Soseki-san doing here?
Tread carefully, Sasato. That author fellow knows you from your time in London, doesn't he? Expose you for who you really are. This will be over before it's begun.
Yes. Yes, of course I know. I presume Soseki-san won't have forgotten about me. I could certainly never forget him. Although he does seem to have changed somewhat in the 6 months that it's been since I last saw him. And as for Inspector Hosonaga, that amazing outfit is hard to believe. I do like the entire turtle upon his head. Is it alive? I can't tell. Do I have something on my face? Well, your glasses for one, although they don't seem to be helping you see. Thank goodness he hasn't recognized me either.
Oh, I suppose it's this disguise, is it?
I thought that appearing here in the clothes I was wearing at the time would make for a more faithful testimony. It is my guiding principle to carry out all testimonies flawlessly.
Well, I can appreciate why an Imperial Police Bureau detective might have been present. What business did a writer such as yourself have being at the scene, Soseki-san?
Oh, well, you see, I had been asked that day to give a lecture on the morning of the incident in the Imperial Yume University's Grand Lecture Hall, no less. At Yume University? After the lecture, I had a very pleasant conversation with a researcher from the Medical Science Department. The professor over there, in fact. With Professor Mikitoba.
Yes, that's right. It was arranged by one of the newspapers. They wanted some story or other about 2 former students who'd studied in Great Britain.
Of course, being a renowned author, the press never left me alone. The secretly spy, snapshot, scribble stories, and scupper my privacy. As you can see, the conversation was written up in this newspaper here. I'll read it at your leisure, my provincial struggling student friend. I have plenty of copies. Thank you very much. Practically threw that paper at me. This is important. A newspaper containing an article about a discussion between my father and Soseki-san. The debate became quite spirited. Okay. Anyway, following my interview with the professor, hey, where are you going? What are you doing? You don't have to read it now. Oh, look at his little pose.
Look at the little post, and there's this cat. There's Walker High. Or Walker High the second. He is a cat. Ad for bicycles. Bet you could read all this if you could read Japanese. Actually, wait, can we magnify it? Will it? No, it won't translate. Okay. Alright. Magnifying glass. It's a good detail, but I don't really see much use for this. Okay. Anyway, following my interview with the professor, the lady in question appeared and made a very unexpected announcement. I should like to go with everyone to see our country's coast. Those were her words. As I explained before, Miss Brett was never taken into custody. She continued to work in my laboratory under strict surveillance, of course.
At which utterance, the university immediately contacted the government to seek guidance, and the response was, permit Miss Brett to go as long as a detective accompanies her.
That detective, I'm liberty to divulge, was me, her Chief Inspector Satoru Hosonaga.
Thereby, the entire party departed cordially for the seaside, it seems.
It was extremely challenging to clear all other members of the public from the vicinity of the beach. But fortunately, I'm at peak physical fitness at the moment, so I was able to carry out my duty flawlessly. Oh my, Inspector, you do have something on your face now. How unsightly. I do apologize. Does that mean you went to the beach too, Father? No. Fortunately, I had work to finish off. But unfortunately, of course, it meant that as my assistant, Ray was invited to take my place. Of course, being a renowned author, I didn't like to decline the invitation. But if only I had, I'd never have seen that awful sight, relentlessly racked by remorse and regret. Very well, I must now ask you to present your formal testimony to the court. Will you give an account of all you had witnessed on your impromptu excursion to the coast? Of course, Your Excellency. Relentlessly racked by remorse and regret I am. Is this guy just never gonna have a good life? I mean, yeah, you're popular now, but you still have things going on. On the day of the incident, I was ordered on a special surveillance assignment in this disguise. I just managed to catch that crab when I suddenly heard a caterwail from behind me. Words that I've read that I've never said out loud. That one's right there. I ran into the beach hut at once, where I found the pair in question. Yes, that young girl was astride the Englishwoman, dagger in hand, as she stabbed wildly. I saw blood on the blade. It proved to me that she'd stabbed the victim multiple times. Well, that's not good. That's really not good. Indeed. It does appear from this testimony that both witnesses here present saw it. The very moment of this heinous crime. What?
Now, if you will recall, I promised evidence as well. What phrase did I use again? Ah, yes, that it was. Damning evidence.
What have you there, counsel? A so-called fountain pen, is it? Correct, Your Excellency. I found it at the scene whilst examining the body. It appears that in her dying moments, with her final ounce of strength, the victim clutched a piece of evidence that would positively identify her killer. What?
Your Excellency, if you would cast your eyes over the photographic print of the crime scene once more.
I swear to God, if she writes like Leon. Oh, goodness me. What is she? She's writing something in the sand, right? What is it, though? What is it? Yes, the victim is clearly grasping something quite deliberately there in her hand. That's right. The fountain pen. If you would kindly examine the pen, Your Excellency. Oh! The owner's initials have been engraved into the ebonite barrel. R.M. Ray Membami. The initials of the defendant.
Oh, no! RM could be something else. The initials are always right, which is a problem.
This fountain pen will be admitted immediately as critical evidence.
Fountain pen has RM on it.
So, have I omitted anything?
Perhaps. Let's take a look at it. We can't. We're gonna get a tutorial for it, I bet.
Decisive testimony and damning evidence. There's a bright blue sky outside the courthouse today. Birds are singing. Children are chirping. And lawyers like you should be burning in hell. Perfect weather to ascribe guilt, I feel.
We're done. I don't understand. The prosecutor Ouchie of 9 months ago had none of this man's poise.
Counsel for the defense, you may begin your cross-examination now. Naruhodo-san.
Naruhodo. That means... Oh, yes, me!
Is there another Naruhodo in my courtroom?
Actually, there isn't even a single Naruhodo in your courtroom.
Cousin Ryotaro, pull yourself together, please.
All right. I've seen this countless times as a judicial assistant. Find inconsistencies in the witness testimonies and prove that they're lying somehow. That's all there is to it. That's how a real lawyer would handle a cross-examination. So let's see what I can do. All right. It's not super tutorialized, which I appreciate. Okay. You order special... Why this disguise specifically? In that jaunty disguise. Correct. Wait. No. I mean, it wasn't the first time I've worn this swimsuit for a dip in the ocean. It's tried and tested. Do what must be done to keep the Englishwoman under surveillance. Those were my orders that day. And this tried and tested outfit was the answer? Being able to blend flawlessly into a crowd is an important part of a detective's job. I submerged myself in the salty water, leaving only Mr. Turtle floating inconspicuously on the surface. Mr. Turtle loves the water. But there was no need for you to blend into the background on this assignment, really, was there?
If that made you late arriving on the scene, I think perhaps you had your priorities wrong.
But I love Mr. Turtle. Perhaps I shouldn't pursue this line of questioning any further at the moment. We're gonna kill him. I just managed to catch that crab when suddenly I heard a caterwaul from behind me. You're describing the victim's scream, presumably, Saseki-san. In more literary terms, you might say it was a scream that could have pierced the heavens like a drill. Kya! Or the like. Of course, that's just a metaphor. We renowned authors are wont to describing things so. Saseki wasn't at all like this in England. Anyway, I spun around at the noise and the beach hut immediately fell under my gaze. Has returning to Japan just filled him with a renewed sense of life? Yes, the beach hut.
The area is popular with government ministers. Many have seaside retreats there for rest and recuperation. Locals are prohibited from entering the area, so it's always quiet. The beach hut is a simple structure, erected as a place for people to change or take refuge from the sun. Although, the Englishwoman commandeered the hut for herself, which meant that I was forced to change into my swimwear on the sand, my naked body available for the whole world to see. Ah, I imagine that was rather embarrassing for you. Well, anyway, I tossed the crab aside. Originally, I used him to cover my little bits, you know, and headed for the beach hut at a run. Or, in more literary terms, I decrabbed and beetled off hutwise.
That's an incredible sentence. That's such a good sentence. I ran into the beach hut at once where I found the pair in question.
Hold it!
I already know the exact thing to press on, so I know what it's going to be. Wait, by pair, you don't mean to say... But how could that be? Oh, no, you misunderstand. Obviously, I mean the victim and the defendant, Raymond Bami-san. Oh, would have been helpful if you could have just said that from the outset. You jump to conclusions. You have to expect to fall flat on your face sometimes.
Dear me, pinning your hopes on such an outside chance. Foolish, very foolish.
It really was an outside chance. Wish I realized that before I said something silly.
So, Inspector, why don't you tell the court how exactly you found the aforementioned pair in the hut?
Well, it was a sorry sight. A really grisly scene. I parted the Norin curtain hanging in the doorway. Stepped inside only to see... I didn't know that's what it's called. The defendant leaning menacingly over the lifeless body of the victim sprawled on the sand. The turtle jiggles. That's not alive. Alright, it's like when I was a little bobbing head little toys that I got when my family went to Japan the first time. They brought that back for me and I didn't understand that it was a gift from Japan. I thought it was like that was just like a weird thing from like Mexico or something. I learned later on that they were things from Japan. My life has always been about Japan. Even when I was a kid. You know, my parents met when they were a geisha and a ninja at a Halloween party. And then my grandparents like went to Japan and lived there for like a year. My grandparents have an oriental room, as they call it, which is just full of like Japanese furniture, tatami mats, sliding doors. Like, it's always been destined. People are like, why are you a weeb? Because literally, it was unavoidable. My glasses very nearly cracked at the ominous sight that met my eyes.
How thoroughly appalling.
Doesn't appear to be lying here. Well, Saseki-san, can you confirm what Inspector Hosonaga is saying, I wonder? You'd like a literary man's opinion. Oh, it's gone to his head. Yes. That young girl was astride the Englishwoman, dagger in hand, as she stabbed wildly. So it's going to be... It's a single wound, right? Because I think that this one is blood on the blade, proved to me that she stabbed the victim multiple times. No, it's going to be that one, actually, but... Alright.
Hold it!
Stabbed wildly. You actually saw her do it. Oh, indeed. The terrible spectre, the terrapin inspector, the bloody torrent, the author's torment. Oh! Every sight and sound is still carved in my melancholy memory. That was my impression, at least, as a future literary sensation.
Counsel, what on earth was that shrill, effeminate scream?
Oh, no, what are you insinuating? I'm as manly a Japanese man as you. I just had, testicular torsion.
Oh, no, I get it. Okay, you're good.
I wonder if I might interject here, Saseki-san. Something you said is troubling me. That was my impression, were your words just now, I believe.
So do you mean to say you're not confident that you really did see what you've described? No, I mean, yes, I know what I saw. My ears don't deceive me when I heard that scream, hence my ears didn't deceive me either. Why is the frame rate dying so randomly? I could describe everything I saw vividly. I could publish it on tomorrow's newspaper serial.
It just sounds as though the next installment of I Am a Cat may take a macabre turn.
This is a fool's errand. The more we press your author friend on what he saw, the more entrenched he's going to become.
Oh dear. How awkward. Just give me this last one, though. Right? Because multiple times. That's not true. She was stabbed multiple times? How can you be sure of that?
Very simply, from the blood on the blade.
The blood?
When I entered the hut, I saw the defendant holding the blade raised up in the air.
Yes, that's right. I saw it too. Oh.
And I noted that there was blood on the blade already at that point.
In other words, the victim had already been stabbed at least once by the time I arrived on the scene. Yes, that's right. I saw it too. The victim was already holding the defendant's fountain pen in her hand too. All of which means I can be sure the victim did not die instantly. Yes, right. Saw it too. Maybe here in London was too much for him. He sounds like he's forgotten how to speak Japanese.
The logic of your argument is sound, at least.
Well, as I said, it is my guiding principle to carry out all testimonies flawlessly. Perhaps it should have been your guiding principle to protect the victim flawlessly. That's just my personal opinion, of course.
I'm just Mr. Turtle. Don't talk to me. I'm just Mr. Turtle now. Yeah. Now you're gonna have to talk to Mr. Turtle from now on.
Counsel, you'll refrain from mocking the witness.
Can I mock Mr. Turtle?
No, you can't mock Mr. Turtle.
So many thoughts swirling around my head. All I can do is stand here wide-eyed and mute.
Goodness, my dear, you must really try to calm down.
But how am I supposed to find an I mean, I already found it. It's not that hard to find. I don't see why either of them would have any reason to lie.
What you must remember, I think, is that witnesses may inadvertently lie at times, for various reasons. Misunderstanding, a mistaken observation, a delusion even.
A delusion?
What's important is that we determine the truth. There's only one sure way to do that.
Yes, with evidence, of course.
Spoken like a true judicial assistant. Your witness testimony gives art to pick a piece of evidence.
It's like, Father, what's wrong? You're dying. He's turning into a car. Okay. It's all about inconsistencies. Yeah, we know how to do this. I'm playing an Ace Attorney game.
You present the evidence of the witness with X and the way
Yes. All right, then. I'll consider the details of all the evidence in the court record against your statement to find inconsistency. I hope I'm up to the task.
Don't forget that you can have the witness repeat their statements as many times as you like, which is very strange because you think they'd get bored or something, but alright. Everyone has to start at the beginning.
Every time you have to start back at the beginning.
Those wide eyes are quite forgivable. And besides, there's no one else to defend the poor girl.
You're right! You listen to testimony again from the start. No, I don't. I know where to go. Alright. 2, 3. Right there. Alright, so Blunt Blade proved that she stabbed multiple times.
Objection!
Are you sure about that? She's like, God, that felt right. With that accusatory cry that welled up from deep inside me, I think I finally understand. Every time Kazuma-sama and Naruhodo-san have stood here at this bench, the stakes have been very, very high indeed.
What's the meaning of that menacing pose, counsel?
I'd like the witness to clarify something for me. Who? What? Where? When? How? Not you, Saseki-san. The query is directed at Inspector Hosonaga. And me. In your statement just now, you said that the victim was stabbed multiple times. Yes, that's right. I like this take on the objection. It kind of rules. It's a little understated, but it's really good. Yes, that's right. As I said when I entered the hut, the defendant was already standing over the victim, bloody knife in hand, like a murderous demon. And yet, that cannot be.
What? Get to the point, please, counsel.
In the post-mortem report, it clearly states that the victim was stabbed one time only.
What?
In other words, Inspector Hosanaga's testimony is clearly flawed. And Saseki-san, me? You claim to have seen Mambami-san in the throes of stabbing the victim.
Yes, I did. Wildly! But both you and the inspector confirmed the same point, that there was already blood on the knife that you saw the victim holding. Sorry, the defendant. I said the wrong word. I said the very wrong word. That's the defendant holding. Yes, and it's quite simple. We know the murder weapon was used to stab the victim only once. Therefore, there's no way there could have been blood on the knife if that single stabbing hadn't already occurred. Could it be the wine that's everywhere, apparently? True! What exactly is your contention, counsel? Are you going to tell us? Yes, Your Excellency. There's only one logical conclusion. What Saseki-san in fact saw was not the moment the defendant stabbed the victim at all, but the moment that the defendant in fact withdrew the blade from the victim's body. But can't be! Excellent work, Sasato. Exploded at them without objection, then proceeded to pull them apart systematically.
Choo! Well, this takes me back. Yes, I seem to remember your cousin staged a scene much like this in that trial 9 months ago. A half-witted child with half-baked objection attempting to steal the show.
You're right, there were certain similarities. Except that so-called half-witted child managed to outwit the prosecution, who has only half a head of hair.
Slaughter! My bed is quite adequately dressed. In any case, all this talk of stabbing and withdrawing and multiple wounds, it makes not a jot of difference.
What? Why not?
Engage your brain, young man. When the accused first plunged the deadly weapon at the victim, that was the fatal blow. And it was at that moment, just as she had withdrawn the blade ready for her next strike, that the witnesses saw. The knife was already tainted with blood because the accused had already stabbed the victim. Oh. All you have successfully shown with your little display is that the mustached author is prone to moments of extravagance.
Oh, that is so violent. That getting sent back like that is so violent. I am in agreement with the prosecution. If the defendant was seen wielding the blade at all, that is sufficient grounds for her actions to be viewed with suspicion. But if she was withdrawing the blade?
Then we are back to where we started.
Sorry?
Consider this, young yokel boy. If the student girl is innocent, as you claim, then why would she have pulled the blade from the victim? And with a demon's cold-blooded composure, too! The prosecution demands an explanation. And it better be good.
Why did Ray pull out the knife? Yes. Going for the jugular. What does father mean by that? Let the court hear your answer then, counsel. Truth is, I don't really know. I have to come up with a plausible reason here. We don't have a case. Someone else stabbed her, and she was retrieving it. The reason why the victim pulled the knife blade out of the victim's body was so that she could save her life. According to the post-mortem report, the victim's death was not instant. That's correct. It's thought she would have remained conscious for a short while after sustaining the injury.
Indeed, giving her the time to take hold of this piece of evidence that clearly indicates her killer.
The point is, being a medical research assistant, Mbami-san was compelled to act when faced with the wounded victim. Instinctively, she pulled the blade out in an attempt to save Miss Brett's life. Oh yeah? I feel like it's good logic.
True. Did you hear that, Your Excellency? It would seem this is the best we can expect of this young yokel.
Indeed. Is it just me, or does it suddenly feel much colder in here? Your Excellency, if I may. Speak, witness. I would like another opportunity to testify in respect to the slip-sawdust church. in respect to the slipshod assertion just put forward by the yokel defense counsel, I mean.
Slipshod?
An excellent idea, Inspector. Our young yokel hopeful has a modicum of knowledge when it comes to the law, it seems. But in matters of medicine, he appears to possess not one iota of common sense.
Very well, Inspector. I will permit your request. You will testify again before the court on the subject of the defense counsel's assertion. Yes, sir. I will do so flawlessly.
He's all about flawlessly, and then he always is flawed. That's the joke, right? He's always actually a bumble king. Forensic medicine primer. Pulling a blade from a wound without thinking could cause heavy bleeding. This is true, actually. If you're stabbed, don't take it out. Leave it in and get medical help. It'll hurt like hell when it's in, but it'll be worse if it comes out. That's basic knowledge that any medical research assistants with an ounce of sense ought to know. In other words, there's no good reason why the defendant would have tried to pull the knife from the victim. Let's not forget that the young student did have a motive for killing the victim. The man the victim murdered 9 months ago, Dr. Wilson, was the defendant's highly respected mentor. I don't see anything there, so we're going to probably have to press for it. Is what you said true, Inspector? Could pulling a knife from a wound really cause the wound to bleed heavily? Yes. Think of the weapon itself as a stopper in the wound that prevents excessive blood loss. Until a doctor is ready to provide proper treatment, the stopper shouldn't be removed. Oh, I see.
This is why yokels should stay on the farm. Even a quack from obscure mountain village would have some such basic knowledge. Anyone who's ever given someone a little poke with a knife and pulled it out again knows it.
Oh, well, I've never stabbed anyone, you see, or pulled a blade out of a wound, so...
Of course you haven't. I didn't bring you up to behave like a bandit.
Father, is it true what they're telling me?
Yes, it's basic remedial knowledge for medics. Rhea would have been well aware of it. If she were to claim ignorance of such fundamentals, it would prove fatal in many ways.
Then, how would Ray have done it? Could she have pulled out that knife in full knowledge that it would be fatal for Miss Brett?
I don't know.
Ray never once mentioned anything about the knife to me. It seems almost impossible to believe, but would my friend actually have...
Sasato,
Yes?
pull yourself together. We mustn't lose sight of why we're here.
And she's like,
That's not her name, and why did he call you? Oh, no.
it's fine.
We mustn't lose sight of why we're here. Counsel, it's time for your cross-examination.
Yes, Your Excellency.
However, I must warn you, if your cross-examination fails to identify any issue with the established facts, I'll be moving on to my adjudication immediately afterwards.
Okay. I understand. Believing in your clients and fighting for their cause until the bitter end. I knew it'd be hard, but I had no idea it'd be this hard. Alright. I think we're just gonna basically cross-examine multiple times, right? No, thinking could cause heavy bleeding. Please tell me more. You say doing it without thinking could be a problem. Does that mean if you use due care and attention, it would be alright? I wouldn't have thought this needed spelling out, really, but the blade is like a stopper in the wound. Remove it, and a serious hemorrhage will occur. In other words, a medic would need to be present before any attempt was made to withdraw the blade. Doing it without thinking would be madness. Just can't do it. Oh, well, thank you for such a thorough explanation.
You see, Counsel, when you act without thinking, the result is a bloodbath.
Back to the witness testimony, please. I'm so excited to go back to the judge in London. This guy is probably my least favorite judge in the franchise. He is just kind of boring, you know? In that case, there's an obvious explanation here. Which is... Clearly, the defendant, Ray Membami-san, does not possess an ounce of sense. Okay. What do you think about that, Professor Mikitoba? I'm not sure you should be labeling your best friend as lacking in common sense. Well, I thought it would be better than labeling her as a murderer.
I don't know, young people today. If that's friendship, I don't understand it.
Careful, counsel. A lack of common sense can be a very dangerous thing.
Oh dear, that recoiled on me rather badly.
That's life, I'm afraid. A lesson everyone must learn. Hopefully you can see now that this really is basic medical knowledge. Being involved in medical research, Membami-san would certainly have been aware of it. I almost said remembered it because of her name. Just think about her name being Ray Membami, right? No good reason why the defendant would have tried to pull the knife from the victim. Talk to me more about that.
The defendant had suddenly encountered somebody she knew lying on the ground bleeding to death. The sight could have shocked her delicate sensibilities, causing her to remove the blade inadvertently.
I really don't think inadvertent actions can explain this. The woman is a medical research assistant. I imagine she would behave so irrationally.
Oh, but irrational behavior is a woman's prerogative, isn't it? Am I right, fellow men? Am I right? The old ball and chain, right? Maybe she was on that time of the month, am I right? You know?
Oh dear, you have a lot to learn about women. Only a small-minded man could have such bigoted views.
This game is now woke.
Wait, hold up. Wait. I'm pulling up the woke game list. Where's this the woke games alert list? I want to check it out. And I gotta see. Alright, let's go. Ace Attorney Trilogy. Slightly Woke, the original. Phoenix Wright Trials and Tribulations has a minor gay NPC called John Armstrong who behaves in a flamboyantly effeminate way. You realize that Gene Armstrong is like basically that is a I'm not even gonna say microaggression, that's a macroaggression. That is making fun of gay people. And then Ace Attorney Trilogy Apollo Justice contains pro-LGBTQ messaging. Localization rewrites Dual Destinies dialogue to be more respectful of those who don't follow gender norms. Okay. Sure. That's hilarious. What a stupid game list. Thanks, Salty DK Dan, for informing me about that.
Oh dear, perhaps I'm letting my male persona take a hold too much.
Well, I managed to convey the basics now. That should cover the medical side of the argument. Yeah, there's nothing there we need to worry about. Let's not forget the young student did have a motive for killing the victim.
Whatever the motive, it just isn't Membami-san's nature to do something so awful.
But she had both motive and opportunity. That's very hard to argue against.
But you don't know the defendant. And you, counsel, do not appear to know the law.
Yes, evidence is the only way to convince the court of your argument, not feelings.
With this fledgling to defend her, I would almost say I pity the accused.
So do I. Inspector, you will reiterate your point about the defendant's motive, please. Yes, Miss Brett was in many ways the sworn enemy of Membami-san. The man the victim murdered 9 months ago, Dr. Wilson, was the defendant's highly respected mentor.
I'm not seeing anything to contradict just yet. Well, yes, that's true. Dr. Wilson recognized Membami-san's talent and offered her the position of an assistant despite her being a woman. He was extremely grateful to him.
Yes, the Englishman appears to have been a very broad-minded individual. Dr. Wilson had no time for outdated traditions. He met with opposition, of course, but he firmly believed in Membami-san's abilities. Clearly, the defendant was in the man's debt, which only serves to prove my point.
This is hopeless. I can't find a single crack in his testimony anywhere. Frey knew that withdrawing the knife from the wound would threaten Miss Brett's life further. I just can't think of any way to explain why she did it.
Masato, it's at times like these when it's especially important to remember the fundamentals.
Fundamentals?
Evidence what counts in the courtroom, isn't it?
Of course, but I've been through the court record dozens of times already.
Is this the tutorial now? Forgetting something? What is it? You needn't take the evidence at face value. You can and must examine it in greater detail. Here we go. When this is your first time playing the role of a lawyer in the courtroom, you need reminding of the rudiments. You need only ask. I'll do my very best to help.
Examine the evidence in the court record? It's an idea, certainly. What should I do? I know what to do. Come to think of it, Kazuma-sama and Naruhodo-sama were always turning evidence over and over in their hands. Yes, I need to examine things in greater detail with A.
The look in your eyes. It's coming back to you. Go through the court record again and have a thorough look at everything. You may just find a clue. Alright, so first off, that's what I was waiting for.
RM. Oh my god, you look so cool! God, that 2D art rules! The RM initials are very clearly engraved here.
And the fact that Miss Brett was clinging to this pen in her dying moments is very clearly a message too.
Identify her killer, you mean?
I don't think there could be any doubt this is a key piece of evidence in this case.
What is that? There's some sort of emblem here, look. But it isn't a Yume University one.
Must belong to some other organization, I suppose. Business of some kind.
Oh, did someone say business? Oh, I forgot I'm dead. Don't worry.
That would seem to imply the pen doesn't in fact belong to Ray.
Oh, okay. Can we open her up? If we take off the pen's lid, you could stab someone with that. Nothing appears obviously out of the ordinary here, does it? Oh, I guess not. Let's unscrew the barrel shot. Oh, we're opening it all the way up. Okay. This must be the little reservoir that holds the ink.
Yes, you fill it by drawing ink from a bottle up through the nib.
Is something wrong, Father?
There doesn't actually appear to be any ink in there, that's all.
Oh, yes, you're right. It's pretty much empty. It could have been on the verge of running out, I suppose. Why? Why? Very strange. Very peculiar. Huh. We can't examine this. Okay. Oh, here we go. Raucous England returnees tell all. I don't know how to say that word. It's an interview with you and Saseki-san, isn't it, Father? Looks as though it was quite an exchange.
Yes, he became a little over-animated when he was talking about his time in England. The photographer managed to capture the moment he had his hand karate-chopped me on the neck.
I do hope you weren't hurt. He's an author. He has no strength. Meat? Argue? Okay, on the back. Oh my god, there's a hair loss thing. This is the newspaper from Saseki-san. Seems to be an important article on the back page as well. Exclusive. Deadly poison stole from Yume Medical Research Laboratory. From Yume's medical research. Father, isn't that your lab?
What the? Let me see that. The poison's been stolen?
How did I know? It's this morning's paper that Saseki-san gave us. Are you saying you didn't know?
As embarrassing as this is for the head of the laboratory, I didn't. I've not heard of any such thing. Where on earth could the reporter have gleaned his information?
Come to think of it, there was no article mentioning this story in our paper this morning, was there?
It's a highly toxic poison we've been working on in the strictest confidence. What? Why do you need a highly toxic poison? I put Ray in charge of the project. Hey, she was managing it? That's what's written here. If what's written here is true. It means that she tried to hide the theft from me. And moreover, the details were leaked somehow. I don't believe it. We need to read this article very carefully. Article has been entered into the court record. It's just an entire different thing. Exclusive. Deadly poison stolen from Yume Medical Research Laboratory following a lecture at Yume by Saseki Natsume on the 11th of August. Come to light that a very disturbing incident took place. A deadly poison being secretly developed in the University Forensic Science Laboratory was stolen. Even the smallest amount entering the body, either via mouth or via wound from a poison-laced blade. Okay, it's pretty obvious. Stab with the poison-laced blade. Like, I know that's so obvious, right? It's the first case. Current methods cannot detect the newly developed chemical. The university would have to be consulted. Onset of symptoms occurs in minutes, starting with impaired breathing and ending with acute contraction of pupils. Yep, that's what I called it right away when I heard that our eyes were freaking out. Such symptoms would be suggestive of this toxin. It's apparently an entirely new synthesis of alkaloids. Oh, commissioned by the military? Huh. Okay, yes, I'll do it straight away. So, what could this be for, then? Pulling a blade from a knife without thinking could cause heavy bleeding. Basic knowledge. No good reason why a defendant would have tried to pull the knife from the victim. Is this where we use it? Because I'm worried about us jumping the gun, you know? This young student did have a motive for killing the victim. The man the victim murdered. That's fine. Did have a motive. This is what it's going to be. Because there's no good reason why a defendant would have pulled the knife from the victim. Right? Unless, wait. Was she trying to like, okay, let's say that Giselle Brett got stabbed with poison. Was she trying to like literally cut off the skin that was there to save her? Have anything here? Poison. Small amount of liquid. Saseki-san became spirited photographic print. Right? I don't think there's anything else here. No. Okay. Pull this out. My thought is that this is where the poison was. Right? No. Nope. So I think we have everything that we can have. Right? In the back. No good reason. Gripping the knife. No, not the knife. Gripping that. We don't even see a knife. You know what? I'm gonna save here. I feel like we might be jumping the gun a bit. But let's see if this works. Jump it with this. Let's go. Whoop, wrong one. Okay. Speedy time. Blah, 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 blah. Let's go. Okay. No good reason. Did have a motive. Let's go. Present. I'm gonna try this one.
Objection!
Okay, that is the right one. No. There is one possibility. One very good reason why the defendant might have decided to withdraw the knife from the victim's wound. I feel like this is really jumping ahead a lot more than Ace Attorney usually does, but... What?
The yokel not only has a poor grasp of the law, but is also a poor loser. Tell us then, what possibility do you think you've identified?
It's here, in this newspaper article. An article about a deadly poison having been stolen from a laboratory at the Imperial Yume unit.
Objection! The victim perished from a stab wound. Poison has no relevance in this case.
But... Prosecutor Ouchie, we will let the defense speak. Thank you for being on my side.
But a newspaper article? The court cannot rely on the kind of hearsay that those wretched publications carry.
Counsel for the defense, I'm going to need some tangible basis for your claim. You will indicate to the court precisely what part of the newspaper article mentioned affirms your assertion.
Your Excellency!
Yes, of course. Thank you. Ray would have never done something to further endanger Miss Brett's life without cause. The reason why the defendant pulled the knife from the victim's body is explained in the article where it says... We need to read it. Deadly in tiny quantities. Right? Even the smallest amount by a... I think it's this one. Why is it being done? Oh, it's because it's supposed to be saying how we can know, right? I think it's we say developed in deadly in tiny quantities because it says affirms your assertion because we want to show the eyes, right? I think because I don't want to jump too far ahead. No, it's why is it developed? Breathing, ending with acute contraption prior to death. Let's try that one. Let's do the last one there. Again, I'm just gonna save. I like to keep my things open. Let's do with why is this being developed? According to the article, the development of the poison was requested by the military.
Yes, troubling revelation indeed.
Oh, it's very worrying.
And yet, even more worrying is how this yokel is trying to manipulate the court with nothing more than rumors.
Great, okay, that's very much not the right one then. But I feel sure Ray had a good reason for her actions. The explanation is somewhere in this newspaper article. Try reading the article again, yes. Oh, it's fine? Okay, we're good. Deadly in tiny quantities. The article reveals the following property about the poison in question. When the toxin enters the body on a knife laced with the poison, it's rapidly absorbed and causes death in minutes. Are you suggesting the knife used to attack Miss Brett was laced with this very poison? It would explain why the defendant, Membami-san, would have withdrawn the blade as soon as possible. Yes, the truth is, it was an attempt to stop the poison from entering the victim's body. What? I love this objection theme.
This is complete and utter nonsense.
Not at all. The defendant withdrew the knife blade from the victim's body not to accelerate the woman's demise, but to save her life. And the prosecution cannot deny the possibility.
Have you not read the post-mortem report? The cause of death was hemorrhage. The word poison appears nowhere in the document.
Well, that's because by acting quickly to remove the blade, the defendant prevented the poison from taking hold.
Oh, please, this is clearly desperation. The weasel's last breaking of wind.
Are you talking about farting weasels, buddy?
Poison has nothing whatsoever to do with this case, so I believe the defense is well aware. We have no proof that the information in this wretched newspaper article is at all reliable anyway.
In that situation, what the student should have done is wait for medical assistance to arrive. But instead you claim she suspected poisoning and took the potentially lethal decision to remove the blade. She must have had a strong reason for her suspicions then, or the argument makes no sense.
Exactly. Well put, Inspector. On what grounds did she do it, yokel?
Why did Ray suspect the stolen poison was involved? If you want grounds, I'll give you grounds. What?
You can't possibly.
From your expression, counsel, it would appear that these are not empty words. But naturally, as you stand in this courtroom as a lawyer, you must be aware that words alone, empty or not, are of no value in our modern justice system. The court demands evidence.
Yes, Your Excellency. I'm well aware of that. I've seen it many times from my place at his side in the Old Bailey.
In that case, counsel, you will present the proof to the court now. What evidence demonstrates a clear link between this poison, this case and the poison in the article? It's going to be, I think it's going to be us saying that, pointing out the eyes, right? So we go examine, right? Yeah, meiosis.
Take that!
Right? Yeah. I would ask the court to refer to the notes section of the post-mortem report, which reads, extreme meiosis, pupil constriction, was observed in the victim. Ugh. Clearly, being a yokel with no knowledge of forensic science, I have no idea, so please, do tell me. Presumably, the fact that this condition of the victim was noted in the post-mortem report means that it's an unusual symptom of death.
Well,
Under normal circumstances, the pupils dilate when someone dies. If there was an extreme constriction instead, that's most certainly unusual, yes?
what are you doing, you yokel detective?
In the newspaper article, there's the following information about the stolen poison. Onset of symptoms occurs in minutes, ending with acute contraction of the pupils prior to death.
What?
If the defendant, upon seeing the victim stabbed in the back, happened to notice that the pupils of Miss Brett's eyes had constricted severely. Yes, as a medical research assistant, you would have suspected poison immediately, without a doubt. Prosecutor Ouchie, I think you'll agree. This is very compelling evidence.
You yokel student and yokel professor!
I believe the defense has expertly demonstrated a credible reason for the defendant's actions.
No.
Eugen Mikotoba. Yes, Your Excellency. I believe you are best placed here to confirm or deny the veracity of the defense counsel's argument. You will tell the court the truth about the details reported in the newspaper. Please. It pains me to have to admit it, but I'm afraid I don't know. You don't know? The toxin was kept under lock and key in my laboratory, certainly, but I was unaware of any theft. Do you mean to tell the court the reports of this theft are unfounded? No, Your Excellency. Without returning to the laboratory to investigate myself, I couldn't say.
Listen to the bumbling academic. Unaware of the theft of secret state research from his own workplace until he reads it in the newspaper.
I take full responsibility for the incompetence of my supervision. Mother.
A pitiful situation for a university professor. You should have more control over your students, rather than allowing them off on killing sprees.
That's totally unfounded. Who? I swear if it's Saseki. Oh no, it's Hi. None of this is Professor Mikotoba's fault. It's all my fault. Ray. Mbami-san, you stand accused here. Outbursts like this will not be tolerated. But it was me. I was the one who noticed that the poison we were developing had been stolen that day. What? So you knew. I'd been placed in charge of overseeing the project. It was the day that the professor and Saseki-san were interviewed together for the newspaper. That's when I noticed that some of the poison was missing. Just a tiny amount it was. Why didn't you let me know immediately? I was scared. The whole project was supposed to be confidential, but some of the toxin had somehow been taken. So I decided I'd try to get it back before anyone else found out. Because I had a very good idea who the thief was. The thief? You don't mean... Yes, of course. It was that dainty English woman. Miss Giselle Brett? So I decided to join the little group of people going to the seaside. Inside the beach hut, I confronted Miss Brett.
but she just sat in a stool at the back of the hut smiling sweetly at me as if she knew she was untouchable. I know it was you who stole the poison. I mean, well now, whatever do you mean? And then, she suddenly got to her feet, before falling to her knees in front of me and collapsing on the floor. That's when I saw the knife in her back. I couldn't understand what had just happened, and then, a moment later, was seized with fear. Pupils on her eyes they'd shrunk to tiny pinpoints.
I don't believe it. In other words, you realized that the victim was suffering the effects of the stolen poison.
My mind started racing. I hadn't seen anything past Miss Brett's lips whilst I'd been with her, which left only one possible way for the poison to have entered her body. On the blade of the knife in her back.
And that train of thought was what spurred you to withdraw the blade?
Yes. If the amount that entered her bloodstream was small enough, she might still have had a chance. That's what I hoped. Really, I'm so sorry for staying silent all this time.
Your attempt to hide the truth of what happened is not something that can be overlooked. However, I have duly noted the courage with which you confessed in the end.
Thank you, Your Excellency. It's barely perceptible rather, but I do think the balance has shifted a little here in this courtroom now. Of course.
Your Excellency, do not be deceived. The victim just collapsed before your eyes, you say? Well, Membami-san, if that is the case, perhaps you could explain how Miss Brett came to be stabbed.
Well,
You have no answer because the simple truth is that you stabbed the victim motivated by revenge.
but you have no conclusive evidence to prove that assertion, do you? Well?
Oh, I have evidence, and it is very much conclusive.
What's the prosecution counsel up to? It was brief, but he hesitated for a moment there. I'm almost sure of it.
Produce the aforementioned evidence at once, Prosecutor Ouchie.
Perhaps some praise is due, young yokel student.
What?
I had imagined there'd be no need for me to submit this evidence.
That looks like a bad picture.
But you brought this on yourself.
That's clearly her, like, trying to get the poison out. That's the pen. That's the fountain pen. And it's trying to absorb it. Right? Right? What the? Could a more damning shot exist? I don't know who's saying this. Could a more damning shot exist? Could the cruelty in the air that beat almost palpable? I don't know who's saying that. It was probably him.
This evidence, more than any other, reveals the true extent of the accused's murderous nature.
If he thinks that this is actually, like, real, why didn't he show this at the start? He doesn't. He's bluffing.
For it shows the precise moment that Membami-san plunged her dagger into the victim's back.
No. That's not true. No. I don't believe it. Hey, you're here. Why don't you just say, that's me using a pen to suck it up?
Order, order, order. Counsel for the defense. Was it you who was responsible for that shrill scream that just pierced my courtroom?
Perhaps his voice is yet to break. These locals are slow of mind and slow of ball to drop.
I'll show you who's slow to mature.
Careful now. Sasato is starting to show her face here. Often said that a picture is worth 1,000 words, and here we have ample proof. The court will accept this extremely cogent photographic print as evidence. That's a pretty rough one, but we can get through it. I can't believe he's had a photograph like this, like that up until... Why can't I read that now? Can't believe he's had a photograph like that up his sleeve this entire time. It's such a stark image. I'm genuinely lost for words. Wait a minute, I don't understand. How did you... I mean, who took that photograph? Almost said photo breast. Why did I almost say photo breast? What the frick? Ray.
Objection! That's of no importance here. Stop trying to divert attention.
Oh,
Objection!
that's an absurd thing to say. It's crucially important. Whoever took this photographic print was a witness to Miss Brett's death. The court must be allowed to hear this person's testimony. That's, like, super true, right? I will uphold the defense's demand. The prosecution will reveal the identity of the person responsible for taking this photograph at once.
Well, I'm afraid I can't do that.
Pardon?
You see, this print arrived at the Imperial Police Bureau headquarters by express post yesterday, but there was nothing to indicate the sender's name or address. The provenance of this print is unknown.
Goodness! Are we to understand then, counsel, that in full knowledge of the fact that this photograph has the murkiest of origins, you nevertheless believe it fit for submission as evidence in the Supreme Court? When you first produced that print before, I noticed you hesitated for a brief moment, as you knew that it wasn't completely reliable evidence, didn't you?
Silence, you yokel student blabbering professor! What matters is the blatant truth of this print is so eloquently expresses.
The defendant has already admitted to pulling the blade from the wound. Clearly, this isn't the moment the knife was plunged into the victim's back, but
The moment it was withdrawn. Don't waste this court's time with your ramblings.
indeed, without knowledge of who produced this print, we have no means of verifying the claim. And the scene it captures without a doubt the most compelling evidence presented to the court. If the defense is unable to shed any further light on the matter, I believe the conclusion is clear. It's going to be the guy who was taking pictures of Saseki-san this whole time. Oh no. Masato, it is the time for you to fight. If what you've established so far is true, then there could be no doubt. This photograph shows the moment that Ray withdrew the blade from the victim. Yes, we just need to prove that somehow.
You'll have plenty of time to rue your defeat on the slow train back to the provinces. And to rue the day you came up against Taketsuchi Ouchi in the court of law.
I can't determine who took this photograph, and the trial is going to come to an end. There must be a clue somewhere. There must be some way of working out who took it. Well, counsel? Your Excellency, the burning question is who took that photograph, and the truth is, I have the answer. We've seen him here. Start saving in multiples. We'll just stick to the same one. We've seen him. Right? I have the answer. This isn't about whether I can or can't come up with the answer now. I simply have to. The identity of the person who took this dramatic photographic print is, I assure you, something the defense can and will reveal.
What? No, you can't possibly. But as you so boldly claim that you can, please do enlighten us.
Unfortunately, I'm unable to present a name.
How utterly underwhelming. Did you really believe you could?
However, I'm able to present evidence. The defense has a piece of evidence that reveals important details about the photographer's identity.
What?
Do we? Let's just see here. From the back. that a crack? Wait. No crack? The crack is the same!
What?
Very well then, counsel. Present your proof to the court. Which piece of evidence do you claim reveals something about the identity?
The Soseki Natsume article.
Take that!
What is that? Newspaper again? Raucous England returnees tell all.
It's not the headline that's relevant here, Your Excellency. It's the photograph. You look at it closely. You'll notice there are some white lines on the right-hand side.
Oh, yes, indeed. They had already caught my eye as it happens.
What of it? A shadow of some kind, presumably, from the branches of a tree or the like?
There are no trees growing inside my laboratory at the university, I can assure you.
Now, if you look closely at this photograph, I thought that was a tree branch at first.
Oh, good gracious!
Yes, exactly the same pattern of lines is present on this photograph too.
Well, that tells us nothing. Yes, it's a shadow of some kind, definitely, from the branches of a tree.
There wouldn't be any trees growing inside a hut at the beach, Counsel.
Noof!
What's quite remarkable about it is that the two patterns are absolutely identical. How could such an extraordinary similarity have transpired?
The curious matching pattern that appears on both photographic prints is a result of a camera defect. Obviously, it must be due to a problem with the camera used to take the photographs.
With the photographic device?
Yes, we can confidently say that the camera's lens must be scratched. Now, the scratched lens caused unwanted lines to appear on every print taken with the device.
In short, the two photographs under consideration here were taken with the same camera.
But there must be hundreds of such camera devices here in the capital. It would be utterly impossible to identify the owner of this particular one.
Bro, he's in the room with us right now. I think you're forgetting, Prosecutor Ouchie, that one of the photographs featured in a newspaper article.
Newspaper? Oh!
That's right. The author of that article is the mystery witness to this crime. Wait, what? What? What was the...
What? I see you were called a raucous English returnee.
Is that like many more? Many memo? Many memo? What the frick?
I see why you are called a raucous English returnee.
What are you yelling about? You already testified.
It's many memo, I tell you. Many memo. What? Me, no more. Look how close he is. Hey, dude. It's like you're on a date. Like you turn around and you just see him arms up, and you're like, whoa. Soseki-san, what was that? Did you say many memo? Ever since I returned to Japan, a reporter from the Shoyu News has been hounding me, following my every move. A reporter by the name of Writing many memos. Shut up. That name is so good. Writing many memo. No, shut up. That one's really good, actually. But by the name of Writing many memo. Yes, hounding me from dawn till dusk. That's incredible. Holy shit, that name. Now that he mentions it. There he is. He looks like a Lupin the Third character.
right? I like his hat. I didn't even notice that. That's a nice hat, buddy. That same reporter be? A camera to the left of him, a notebook to the right. There I am. I was gonna say, are you doing stuck in the middle? Camera to the left of him, notebook to the right. Here I am, stuck in the middle with writing many memo. You're saying that this picture was taken by many memo? Yes, my lord, your excellency. Esquire? Officer, find this newspaper reporter at once and bring him to my courtroom. We will adjourn for a short recess in the meantime. Good, it's been 2 hours. I need a break. Oh, yes, your excellency.
As you say, Your Excellency.
And on one more thing. I want this knife, the murder weapon, examined for traces of poison. We will solicit assistance of the Imperial University's medical department for the task. Understood?
Mini memo.
To be continued. Many minute. All right, well. Welcome back to Ace Attorney. I'd say so far this case is very cut and dry, pretty easy, which is a bit of a shame because, like, the first trial of the first game was insane, right? I'm hoping there's some twists and stuff that really make it go further, because right now it's just like, just so far an easier version of the first one, kind of, but we'll see. We'll see. Thank you all for watching, everyone. We'll see you next time for part 2 of Great Ace Attorney 2 Resolve. We'll see you then for that, guys. Ciao.
Yo.